talk a little bit about the brainwave states. And this is the brainwave states explains how someone like my daughter is able to switch so quickly between states, whereas someone like myself needs the drum in order to help me switch and entrain. Okay. So scientists measure brainwaves on a continuum of frequency and classify them according to the type of mental states associated with certain regions of frequency. There are 5 main brainwave states. The more active the brainwave frequency, the more energy is required to maintain its functioning. And higher frequencies maintained for extended periods of time result in stress and depletion. Okay, so we can't be in high brainwave states for an extended period of time because we run out of glucose, basically. Changes in brainwave states correspond to changes in nervous system function. That's a fact. That's a scientific fact. When our brainwave changes, our nervous system function changes. In adults, our normal waking frequency is about 8 hertz and higher, which is alpha state, beta state, or gamma state, which is the highest brainwave state. In children, normal waking frequencies of 7 hertz or less. So children are more naturally often in theta state. Okay, so they're children. This is why, at least until about the age of 10, it's a lot easier to teach children shamanic journeying than when they get older because they're already naturally in that state. And this is why children are so prone to fantasy, because they're having these spirit mind experiences, but then they don't have a context within which to understand or comprehend those experiences. And so then their thinking mind takes over and starts making stuff up. Okay, and the veil is very thin for young children. Aspects of reality that we're consciously aware of are determined by our brainwave state. Okay, so the brainwave state determines what we perceive. We think that we perceive what's in front of us, but that's not actually accurate. You could put 3 people in the same room looking at the exact same thing, and they will describe 3 different things. There will certainly be similarities, but the differences in perspective and filters and the brainwave states that they're in will change what they perceive. And if one of them is in theta state and the other one is in beta state, like in a fight or flight state, okay, they're going to perceive 2 completely separate worlds. And I'm sure we've had experiences like that where we're having conversations with someone and we're saying one thing and they're saying something else, and it's like we're having 2 separate conversations. You ever had that experience, right? And it's like, oh, okay, wait, we're not really connecting right now. Part of that is that one of the people there might be in fight or flight. Okay, one of them might be experiencing some PTSD, and they're seeing something completely different. They're having a completely different experience than we are if they're having a PTSD experience. Okay. So what that means is we perceive reality differently in different brainwave states. It doesn't mean reality has changed. It means that our way of looking at it has changed. Okay. So delta state. Delta state is from 0.5 to 4 hertz, and that is when we're in deep sleep. And what happens in delta state is the brain and nervous system rests and recovers. We recoup our energy levels, and our nervous system regenerates in brainwaves, in delta state. Okay, that's really important because our nervous system regenerating, a lot of times when you experience a deep healing, you might want to just go to sleep after the healing. Honor that. Please honor that. Okay, that is your body saying, I need to go into delta state right now in order to regrow and regenerate certain nerves and nervous system connections. Okay. Anabolic hormones that repair tissues and stabilize our energy levels are released, and new neurons grow and new neural connections form in delta state. So that's really important. This is why babies sleep so much. They're the babies in delta state, when they're sleeping so deeply, they are forming new neural connections, new neural pathways. So when we have a deep healing, if we're going to fully integrate it and we feel like sleeping, by all means, honor that, because that's when these new neural pathways are growing, the neurons are growing, the neural connections are forming. Okay? Uh, it's an indication your nervous system is recovering from a deeply held trauma, and your brain is creating the new neural pathways to help you integrate the healing if you feel to fall into a deep sleep after receiving a shamanic healing. Okay, that's a clear indication, and honor that. Okay, so theta state is from 4 to 8 hertz. Theta state is the spirit mind. It's where the spirit mind is. It's where we do shamanic journeying. Theta is a deeply relaxed, creative, and meditative state, often inwardly focused, We embody our innate healing and self-healing abilities in theta state. Theta frequency brainwaves allow us to unleash our creativity and find novel solutions to old problems. In other words, our logic mind has been tossing it over and over and over and over, and we haven't been able to figure out the solutions. And then we enter theta state, and all of a sudden we have a solution that we weren't able to see before. Okay. It's kind of like walking away from the puzzle, and then you come back a few hours later and you're like, oh yeah, that piece goes right there. Okay. Kind of like that. Both dreaming and shamanic journeying occur in theta state. Theta state is induced by rhythmic movement, repetitive rhythmic sound, such as shamanic drumming. The body has to be relaxed in order to enter theta state. That's why we center ourselves with practices like meditation or taking a relaxing walk in nature. It's synergistic and supportive of shamanic journeying. It's very hard to go straight from a, intense workday and perhaps a tension-inducing experience to a shamanic journey. Doesn't really work out that well. Okay. In theta state, healing that is visualized in the brain travels down the nerves and affects physical changes in bodily tissue by stimulating corresponding regenerative healing responses. Now, I think that's really cool, okay, because that is the mind-body connection right there, okay? The thing is, it only works in theta state. This is why saying affirmations, oh, I'm healing my hand, doesn't actually work, okay? But in theta state, when we perceive things with a spirit mind and we can see things from a different perspective, okay? Healing that is visualized in our brain actually travels down our nerves and affects physical changes in our body tissue and stimulates corresponding regenerative healing responses. To me, that's the coolest thing about all this. That right there is just the coolest thing. Appreciate that. Read that statement again, or listen to that statement again, and appreciate the immense power of shamanism. Visualization works, but it only works effectively when we're in the shamanic state of consciousness. It only works effectively when we're in theta state. It doesn't work when we're in other brainwave states. Now there's alpha state, which is a calm, centered awareness of 8 to 12 hertz frequency. Alpha state is associated with relaxation, passive attention, reflection, and learning. It's metacognition, where we see the big picture. That's what happens in alpha state. We get a seeing the big picture. We develop a relaxed conscious awareness of ourselves, the world around us, and our place within us. This is why when I teach, I recommend that after your journey, you take the time to journal and to write about what you experienced in your journey. Because you will move up, you'll upcycle after your journey from theta to alpha state. Unless you need to go to sleep, then just go to sleep, okay? And when you upcycle from theta to alpha state, you enter into a state of metacognition. So you can see the big picture. You can see how that healing or guidance that you just experienced now fits into the big picture of your life, of yourself, the world around you, and your place within it. By taking in the full picture of events and placing them in appropriate context, we're then able to think more strategically, to learn, to make accurate assessments, and take effective actions. In other words, we stepped out of that overthinking, overprocessing type of experience, and now we're able to have a completely different perspective on things and take new actions, effective actions. Our body is calm when we're in alpha state. We're relaxed. Alpha state is the bridge between the physical and the spirit worlds. Okay, it's between the bridge between the physical mind and the spirit mind, or the logic mind and the spirit mind. It's that in-between state. Okay. When we begin a shamanic journey, we're going to relax into alpha state before we start, and then we transition into theta state during the journey. This is what most ritual and ceremony is about in a religious or spiritual context. This is why we sing or we dance. It's to help us get into, and repetitive ritual helps us get into this relaxed state of being that then signals to us that we're going to transition soon into theta state to have spiritual experiences. When we return from a shamanic journey and take time to journal, we transition back from theta state to alpha state, where we can recapitulate our experiences in the dream time and assimilate what we've learned and integrate our healing. Okay. And now I'll talk a little bit about beta state, which is from 12 to 40 hertz. This is our analytical thinking, our logic mind. Beta state is narrowly focused and often anxiety dominant, but that doesn't mean it doesn't serve a purpose. Okay. We don't want to discard it completely, because there are tasks and abilities that are available to us in beta state, and it's supposed to be that way. We're supposed to be able to narrow our focus at times. It's important to be able to narrow our focus at times. We just don't want to be that way all the time. Okay, so this shamanic spirit medicine and shamanic journeying is about gaining our freedom to choose what state of being that we're going to be in, what brainwave states we're going to be in, how we're going to perceive the world. Okay, this is a lot about our personal sovereignty, our spiritual sovereignty, and our freedom. Okay, so beta state is subdivided into three categories that are characterized as follows. So low beta state, which is 12 to 15 hertz, is quiet, focused, introverted concentration. Okay, that's, hey, I'm working on my taxes right now, but I'm not stressed about it, or I'm doing my accounting. Okay. Mid beta state is from 15 to 18 hertz, which is a higher performance state, but it's also a higher stress state. It's also higher stress. Okay. And high beta is from 18 to 40 hertz, which is when we're in fight or flight, PTSD, or freeze or fawn, paranoia, panic, stress, anxiety, those not pleasant states of consciousness that sometimes we go there. Beta state requires substantial amounts of mental and physical energy to sustain. That's why if you've ever experienced being in a fight or flight state, afterwards, you're very tired. It's exhausting, because you might be in that state for a while, and then afterwards you're like, and you can't really do anything. You just need to rest. Okay. A balanced amount of beta waves allow us to consciously maintain narrow focus on individual tasks and helps with detailed problem solving. So balanced amount is good. If we have excess, that's anxiety, stress, an inability to relax, fight, flight, fawn, freeze, PTSD. Unfortunately, this is where most of modern society lives most of the time, is in mid to high beta state. Okay, it's intense and it's not particularly pleasant or healthy. Deficient beta waves, which is also somewhat common, is daydreaming, depression, poor cognition, and can lead to ADHD and inability to focus. Well, gee, do you ever think that maybe The deficiency comes from the excess. The excess creates deficiency. That if someone is subject at a young age to a lot of excess fight or flight, that then eventually their body becomes um, sort of normal, that becomes normalized, and then they just can't really go there anymore, that they become depleted, and then they have a hard time focusing, and they bounce around between that state of high anxiety, PTSD, and then an inability to focus and ADHD. That happens. That's actually quite common. Okay. Um, so gamma state is a peak performance state of 40 to 100 hertz. Now, gamma state is only sustainable for brief periods of time. It's like a burst of heightened awareness, okay? A burst of sudden insight. Remaining in the zone of peak performance for extended periods of time requires a combination of theta, alpha, and gamma states. Okay, it's a combination. You cannot remain in the zone in gamma state for hours on end. It's impossible. We don't have enough glucose. We don't have enough energy to do that. So it comes in these bursts of insight, and then we come down and we maybe journal. Okay, and then we get another burst of insight and we journal or relax or integrate that. Okay, consciously training ourselves to enter in and out of shamanic consciousness boosts our predisposition towards peak performance and leads to creative insights, effective action, and problem solving. Okay, when we undertake this course of study and personal training and development, we are able to shift into these states much more easily. We're able to shift out of a state we don't want to be in, like a fight or flight state. We learn freedom. We learn how to control the brain waves as they move through our system. We learn how to gain our spiritual sovereignty. And that's hugely important because then we don't get tempted to buy into all the drama that's out there. There's a reason there's a lot of drama because it's an effective tool for hooking people's attention. Okay. And if we allow it to hook our attention and we buy into it and we start to react emotionally to that, then where are we? We're not in control of our brainwave states. We're moving into high beta state, and that disempowers us. Okay. There's there's a good reason to be learning this type of work and learning how to work in this way to help ourselves.